Everyone, welcome to Anu's classroom. In this video, we'll be talking about Unit 5 of MMPC 10, Managerial Economics. Okay, and in this unit, we will be talking more about demand elasticity and various types of elasticities, why as managers we should be aware of this concept called demand elasticity and how it will affect our decision making, such things. Okay, so let's get started. I'm not wasting time since we are all in a time crunch, right? So what exactly do you mean by elasticity? Now, if you are from commerce background, then definitely you will know these concepts. But if you're from science background or even from non-science, that is like maybe BA arts and arts background also, you just think about it. Elasticity, it is not a new word for us, right? If you know of a rubber band, then definitely you will know about elasticity. So in that case, when we are talking about elasticity in the case of a rubber band, we are talking about how easily it can deform. That is, when you stretch the rubber band and you let it go, if it comes back to its original shape soon, then we say that it is a very elastic rubber band. If it doesn't, then we say, okay, this rubber band has become loose. It is not holding its shape as it used to when it was new, right? It has lost its elasticity, we say. In economics, that elasticity, so what exactly is that elasticity? Is actually how fast, right, that percentage of change from old to new and then back to new is what we are measuring, right? So in economics also, not exactly the same, but in economics, when we talk about elasticity, what we mean is the percentage change. Okay, that is how sensitive it is to changes in its environment. If some variable, some dependent variable, we say that that variable is elastic or inelastic based on how fast or how slow or it or whether or not, okay, it responds to changes in its dependent variables. And mostly when we talk about elasticity, we generally refer to demand elasticity. So accordingly, elasticity, so demand elasticity will be definitely how much the demand is affected, or how sensitive our product or service demand is to maybe changes in income, maybe changes in price, maybe changes in price of other goods, things like that. Okay, so there are 5 levels of this elasticity. It could be perfectly elastic, that is a slight change somewhere, okay, whether the customer's income or the price of our good or price of somebody else's good, whatever, okay, the price of that independent variable might cause a very drastic change in our demand. Then we say it is perfectly elastic, like maybe 1 rupee change might have a 10 or 20 or 30 fold effect on our demand, means it is a perfectly elastic demand. Okay, perfectly elastic demand. Maybe let's say even a 100 rupee change will produce maybe 50 or maybe 5 or 10% increase in or decrease or change rather in our quantity demanded. We say it is relatively elastic. Yes, it is elastic, but it's not a very drastic one. Okay, it is, yeah, it is, there will be a change like that. Now, if 1 rupee change will give you a one quantity, like one unit increase, like proportionately it is going, or maybe 1 rupee decrease will give you one unit increase, or like that. Okay, then we say it is unitary elastic. That is, it is in a perfect proportion, 1:1 ratio. Okay, then comes the reverse of it. Okay, that is a change in say price or income will produce a, what you can say, uh, it doesn't produce a considerable change, like there is some change but we are not sure whether it is solely because of our price change. Okay, in such cases we say that it is relatively inelastic. Okay, we change some of our input factors or some of our dependent variables, and it's confusing to say whether it is actually us or something else that caused that demand increase. And even if there is, like maybe today I sold 5 more units because of say a price change, but the day after I didn't sell that much, and then maybe the next day I might have sold 1 more unit, then the next day I might have sold 5 less units. So there is no much of a pattern, so we are not exactly sure whether it is causing any change or not. That is when we say that it is relatively inelastic. Then the what you can say, the other end of the spectrum is perfectly inelastic. That is, whatever you do, okay, if you are talking about price elasticity, then however you increase your price or decrease your price, your demand is not going to be affected. Or if it is if you are talking about income elasticity, then however your consumer's income changes, okay, it is not going to affect quantity demanded, then it is perfectly inelastic. Think about salt. Okay, you as a salt manufacturer, You can increase the price of salt or decrease the price of salt. People are going to need only that much quantity of salt, right? Even if your income changes from say 50,000 per month or maybe 20,000 per month to maybe 2 or 3 lakhs per month, the quantity that you need for salt is going to remain the same. Just because your salary increased, you're not going to hoard or buy a lot of salt and stock in your cupboard, right? You don't need that unless you're doing some business with salt, which I don't think is considered over here. So what happens over here is that demand for let's say salt is relative, is not relatively, it is inelastic. Okay, so I hope you understood the concept of these 5 levels of elasticity, because these are important concepts, especially from the non-commerce background people. It is first, I would say, when I was doing my MBA at the first after BTech, it was very difficult for me to grasp these concepts. It took a while. So it is very important that you grasp. If you are able to grasp it quickly, then well and good, hats off to you. But some people might find this a little bit tough to grasp. But it is very important that you understand, rewind, rewatch, okay, until you clear the concepts up. These are very important. These have all been asked in previous years question papers. I'm not going question by question because um, what you can say, almost everything in this unit also has been asked as previous years question papers. That's why I thought I will cover this entire unit as is. It is a very important unit, I should say. Okay, so the next is, so how or what all things might affect the demand. Okay, so what are those changes in variables, or what are those variables whose change could bring about a change in our demand. Okay, what are the determinants of this demand elasticity? First is availability of information. Like if I do not know that, say for example, if I didn't know that Ford company was going to shut down, okay, I didn't know, or maybe even Huawei. It happened to me a few years back that I was not aware. I saw a lightning deal. I was in need of a new mobile phone. Not Huawei, HTC. Okay, I was in need of a new mobile phone, and I was thinking, after some misguided research here and there, I found that okay, HTC Uplay, that is a rather good mobile. It has the weight, the screen size, the resolution, all those things I found attractive. Okay, so and all of a sudden I saw that Amazon has put up a lightning deal. So what I did, I anyways wanted a mobile, and I saw that there is a lightning deal. It will be over in 1 hour or so. That was my initial days of buying from Amazon. Okay, when we all had that one time where we first took our baby steps into this e-commerce stuff. So I saw that, oh my God, there's a lightning deal, and I bought it. Now, after buying, 1 week after buying, I came to know from my colleague. She was like, "Are you bought a new phone, which is this? Ah, wow, wow, very nice. This is HTC. Why did you buy it? Why didn't you ask? Why didn't you tell? I would have told you. HTC is shutting down its operations in India." I don't need to explain more, right? What what I would have gone through. And at that point of time, that phone actually cost me half of my salary, per month salary. I Yeah, so that happened. Now, a lot many people like me would have seen that and would have bought it without knowing about this insider, without it was not an insider information, without knowing this information. Now if I would have known, then when I searched for HTC, till that point of time when I was searching for HTC, I didn't find. But now when I search, I think it was like after a couple of weeks, not just 1 week, 1 or 2 weeks later, now when I searched about HTC, I'm finding news from everywhere that the company is going to shut down its operations in India. So that availability of information definitely affects your demand. Then brand loyalty. Some people only buy Samsung, some people only buy Apple, some people only go for say H&M clothes, right? So that brand loyalty is there. Like especially girls, you might know, right? If one face wash suits our face, it will be very hard pressed for us to change that brand lest we get pimple breakouts, right? So brand loyalty, level of competition, okay, from other similar industries or from other firms that produce similar products, that will also affect your demand. Time frame, when exactly are you selling this thing? Like for example, like in the last video I was mentioning about hand sanitizers and masks and all, right? So the time frame during the COVID era, it saw I would say it's lifetime surge. Now it is settling down. So time frame is there. Price of that product, the proportion of income which we can spend on commodities, that is also a matter. Okay, degree of necessity, how necessary it is, that product is for us. Okay, then of course the availability of substitutes. If I don't have a preference for tea or coffee, I just need to drink something. I don't mind if it is tea, coffee, or milk. Then definitely, if I am keeping my expenses, budgeting my expenses, then I would go for the cheapest one, right? If I'm an economical person, which most of us aren't, and most of us have preferences, but still, in a hypothetical case, availability of substitutes also will affect our purchasing decisions and therefore demands elasticity. So, um, now let's talk about the different types of demand elasticities. We have mentioned also a little while earlier, so we have mainly three in our unit, and in general also we have mainly three demand elasticities which we have to consider, which is price elasticity, income elasticity, and cross elasticity. So price elasticity, from the word itself you should understand, right? It is going to be the effect of price change on the quantity demanded. Okay, so any change in the price of a commodity, whether it is decrease or increase, how it affects the quantity demanded for a product is what price elasticity looks into. Income elasticity, so income is from whom? The customers who are going to buy your product. So how the change in their income or their purchasing power will affect your demand, your product's quantity demanded, is what is being looked into from income elasticity. So the sensitivity of the quantity demanded for a certain good to a change in the real income of consumers, keeping all other things constant, is what is income elasticity, which is denoted as YED. So Y in economics is for income. In demand function also we saw Y. Okay, that is income. So income is denoted not by I but Y, but Y, but by Y. Okay. Cross elasticity. Now that is the only word which you once the moment you see that word, which you won't understand, right? So cross means what? So what does a cross do? It links different points together, right? So think in that way. Okay, how other products prices or other products how changes in other products will affect your quantity demanded, your product or services quantity demanded, is what cross elasticity deals with, and it is without any surprise denoted as XED. So the sensitivity of the quantity demanded of one good, let's say X, when there is a change in the price of another good, say Y, is what cross elasticity is. Uh, that is what cross elasticity says. So if a question comes to you, which has before also, to distinguish between or to write short note on any of these types of elasticities, you can explain these things along with an example, like consider, let's say for price elasticity you might say, okay, let's consider a biscuit which you're selling for 10 rupees. Now when the price got increased to 15 rupees, how the demand increased or decreased. You can create a demand schedule or a demand curve, and you can explain accordingly the price elasticity. The formula is always percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in that variable. If it is price elasticity, percentage change in price will come in the denominator. Numerator will always be percentage change in quantity demanded. Only the denominator is different. For price elasticity, it will be percentage change in price. Income elasticity, it will be percentage change in income. For cross elasticity, it will be the percentage change in the price of another good. Okay. So you can write like that and give your answer. Now, how do we calculate price elasticity? Again, price elasticity. So we have mainly two types of calculation for elasticity. We have price elasticity, also known as point elasticity, where we are considering elasticity based on points, okay, in the demand curve, that is, okay. Then we have arc elasticity of demand also. So first let us talk about price elasticity of demand in this slide, and we will go to arc elasticity later in this video itself. So price elasticity of demand, it will measure the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to price. It takes the elasticity of demand at a particular point on the demand curve, or even between 2 points on the curve. And that is why price elasticity of demand is also known as point elasticity of demand. So if a question comes asking you to describe about point elasticity of demand, this is what you have to write. Price elasticity of demand is what you have to write. And why it is called point elasticity? Because we are considering points, okay, individual points in the demand curve to mention this. So there are mainly three determinants of this price elasticity of demand, and first is the availability of substitutes, next is proportion of income spent, and then time period. Okay, So that is price elasticity of demand. So let us take an example and try to find out about more about this price elasticity of demand, because this is one question which I have seen asked multiple times. Okay, so let us consider, if you remember, we have a imaginary company known as Sattvic Sweets. Okay, so let us consider this company known as Sattvic Sweets and let us try to find out price elasticity. So let's say, suppose they have a product called Sattvic biscuits, okay, which they were selling at rupees 20 per unit. Now they reduced the price to rupees 10. Now this is a drastic price change, right? They have cut the price into half. Okay, it is very drastic price change here. And after that, what they could see was, when the price was for 20 rupees per packet, if they were selling 40 units, now when they cut the price to 10 rupees, they are seeing that there is a sale of 80 units. When where there was a sale of 40 units before, now they are seeing a sale of 80 units. So as you might have guessed, right, it is a very elastic demand, right? A half, if when you what you can say, reduce the price by half, you are seeing double sales, right? So the price elasticity of demand without any surprise is 2, right? We are seeing a double in the double demand. So percentage change in quantity demanded will be the ending point, that is 80 minus 40 divided by 40. Okay, so to find the percentage change in quantity demanded, we all know how to find percentages, right? Just that we are not multiplying it by 100. I'm sorry. Yeah. So just that we are not putting that percentage sign into 100, we are not doing, right? If you are putting into 100, we will get 100% increase. Percentage change in price, again 0.5 or 50% change, right? Now, the reason why we are not taking negative 0.5 is we are only concerned about the absolute values. Okay, it doesn't make any sense if it is negative. Okay, if we put percentage change in price as negative, your PED or price elasticity of demand will be -2. What does that mean? It doesn't make any sense. What is -2? Right? Either it is elastic or it is inelastic. That is it. What do you mean by -2? Is it going to decrease? Minus, generally we feel that it is decreased. Quantity demanded did not decrease, right? It increased actually. Yeah. So ignore the negative sign here. Okay, when you talk when you're calculating elasticity. So PED will be percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. It is 1 by 1 divided by 0.5, that is 2, double. Now, after a while, Sattvic Sweets decided that they're going to increase it back to 20. Okay, Sattvic Biscuits, which right now, at this point of time, after a while, at this point of time, was selling at rupees 10 per unit, they have decided to increase it back to 20. Okay, so without any surprise, 80 units, let's assume that it fell to 40 units. Okay, so now what happened? Percentage change in quantity demanded became 0.5. Percentage change in price is 1. Okay, so PED is what? 0.5. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. Actually what happened? It was 20. I reduced it to 10. Now I am again increasing back to 20. Quantity demanded, it was 40. It became 80. It shot up. Now it is again back to 40. So actually the price elasticity of demand should, we assume that it should have remained constant. But what are we seeing over here? We are seeing a very big change, 2 and 0.5. How is that possible? Doesn't make any sense, right? So why did it not make any sense? The reason is how we are taking the percentage, correct? So we were taking the percentage of, say, the price or quantity demanded from its starting point. The reference point was the starting point. Now that is the problem why there is this drastic change in the calculated value of elasticity. Now, to avoid this problem, okay, and make more meaning out of elasticity calculation, economists came up with something called as arc elasticity of demand. So and this arc elasticity of demand, you will see, is particularly useful when there is a very drastic change in price. Like if 2 points are very close to each other in the demand curve, you will find that calculating arc elasticity of demand or point elasticity of demand is not going to make much sense. The reason is arc elasticity of demand does not consider the, what you can say, the initial price as the starting point. Rather, it will consider the midpoint of two prices as the starting point. That is the reason why if 2 points in the demand curve are closer to each other, the midpoint will be almost equal to the, what you can say, it doesn't make much sense for taking the midpoint. But as the points are farther away from the from each other on the demand curve, then yes, midpoint will be a sizable value, right? So arc elasticity of demand, we will find out much similar to point elasticity of demand, but rather than dividing it, the change in quantity or change in price with the initial price or initial quantity, we will divide it by the midpoint of these two quantities, or these two starting and ending price or starting and ending quantities. Midpoint we'll take and divide. Okay, so um, what happens now is that we do not have to worry about which point is the starting point, okay, and which is the ending point, because uh, whatever your starting point is, whatever your ending point is, since you're going for the midpoint and we are only talking about the absolute values, that what you can say, that distance is going to be the same, right, between your starting and midpoint, between your midpoint and endpoint. That displacement is going to be the same. You can say displacement or distance, that is going to be the same, so it doesn't matter. So let us try to find out the arc elasticity of demand for our Sattvic sweets. Okay, so price changed from 20 to 10 and then back to 20. Quantity demanded changed from 40 to 80 and then back to 40. So price midpoint will be 15 rupees. How? 20 minus 10 divided by 2, that will give you 5, right? So 10 plus 5, 50, or 20 minus 5, 50, right? That is the midpoint. That is the place where, so there's only 5 unit or 5 rupee difference between 10, 15, 15 and 20. So that is why 15 is the midpoint. Similarly, the midpoint of the quantity demanded will be 60. So now if you find the percentage change in quantity demanded, you look at the denominator here. Earlier we were dividing it by 40 or 80 depending upon the starting point, but here we are dividing it with the midpoint which we found, which is 60. So we are getting 0.667. Similarly, percentage change in price also we are dividing by the midpoint. So I would say look at this denominator here. Okay, so that is also 0.667. Now you find out the elasticity, you will get it as 1. Okay, 1 means what? Unitary elastic. If there is a change in price, accordingly there is a change in what you can say, there is a change in demand also, correct? So that is, so now that makes sense, right? Yes, that is what we are finding also. Every change in price is giving a proportional change in the quantity demanded, correct? Yes, that makes sense now, much more sense than calculating the point elasticity or price elasticity. So that is the difference between price elasticity and point elasticity. If a question comes in the upcoming term and examination, I hope you will be able to answer it, right? Whether they ask for price elasticity or arc elasticity, point elasticity, I hope that now you have the idea on how to answer such a question. So yeah, coming to this thing, why are we learning about all these things? Why are we MBA people learning about this elasticity of demand? How is it going to help us in taking business decisions? So what we must understand is that decision making uh, or all the decisions in the firm is for increasing the revenue, either by decreasing the cost or by increasing the sales. Either way, revenue should be increased. So if I know about how elastic my demand is to, let's say, the price of my good, or basically what I can control is my price, right? My product's price is what I can control. I cannot control the income, I cannot control the price of other goods, but I can respond to the changes of the price of other goods with my price, right? So either way, whatever it is, I can control my price only. So I need to know how the price will affect the demand. If the demand is perfectly elastic, or if the demand is elastic, let's say, not even perfect, I don't want it to be perfect, but if it is somewhat elastic, okay, then a decrease in my price will surely increase my revenue. Why? Because my quantity demanded will increase, correct? That is the law of demand also. Now, if I increase the price, then I should expect that my revenue is also going to come down, considering all other things remain constant. Now, if my demand is inelastic, okay, then inelastic, perfect example, salt. If I decrease the price of salt, my revenue is going to suffer, because people who are buying is going to buy just that one packet. Okay, so from one packet of salt, if I was making 10 rupees, if I reduce the price to 9 rupees, because it is an inelastic demand, I will now only make 9 rupees where I was making 10 rupees. Loss for me, decrease in revenue. Now, if I increase my price to 11 rupees, people are going to go and buy from other places which sells salt for 10 rupees. Now assume that it is not, there is nobody else in that locality who sells salt, okay, which is very rare. But let us assume in that case, if I increase my price to 11, then where I was getting 10 rupees, now I will get 11 rupees. Okay. For salt, it is a very unrealistic thing, but still, let us assume that there is brand loyalty, favorability, and all those things to us. So that is how it is going to affect. So now you understand as managers why you should know about, or why you should be bothered about the elasticity of demand for your products. I hope you did. Okay, so that basically with this we are summing up unit 5. Okay, I hope this video was useful to you. There were a lot of questions from previous year question papers that I found from this unit. So in the next video we'll pick up another unit of MMPC 10. Until I see you there, thank you once again for sticking till the end, and all the best for your term and examinations. Bye bye.